welcome back to another episode of we're back again here with Brittany Demarco-Furman, and today's episode is sponsored
by Felthousen Florist. Well, we're happy to have Felthousen as a sponsor. We work with them almost every single day here at the Glenville Funeral Home. Mark and his team are our right-hand men and women. We love Rebecca there and their friendly demeanor and that warm, comforting friend atmosphere. That's why we use them, as well as other family-owned florist shops in the capital region. So we're really happy to kind of like delve down into what goes into the funeral flower process making, and also just the importance of aesthetic and the power of just having a symbol of love and condolences in a form of a flower.
Yes, so stay tuned. We will be taking you on a field trip there later in this episode.
Get in the bus.
Yes, everyone pile on in. We're going on a field trip. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But before we get into that, we're just going to talk funeral aesthetics, vibes, and how we kind of create the essence of somebody through color, sound, smell, floral design, even down to the color that maybe we might wear, or a certain, like there was that one service where everyone was wearing green. So do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So talking about the aesthetic of a funeral, the moment you walk into a funeral home, it's going to set the tone. You know, a lot of funeral homes, you know, they have a bad rep that it's cold, dark, and you just don't want to be there in the first place. So, oh my God, what's next when you go around the corner? Of course, that would be the altar, the casket, or the urn, which just creates all these different emotions. And, you know, people aren't prepared. But say that the aesthetic outside of the funeral home is warm, inviting. The first person that you meet is the parking lot attendant that offers to park your car.
If there even is a parking lot.
Yes, hopefully there is. I know that's something that we're very happy to have here, a large space. But, you know, the parking lot attendant, I can park your car for you. This is where to go. And, you know, also these are people we hire that are part of the community, and they mostly know a lot of people who come here. So that warm, inviting sense of belonging to some place that is a part of the community, being a funeral home, to walking up and there's our door attendants, which usually is where Madison and I will be, opening up the doors for family and friends, paying our respects to them and preparing them on where to go next. Because as we discuss, especially with the younger generation, it's their first time to be at a funeral home and their first funeral, and they don't know where to go. I sign a register book.
What even is that?
What is that?
What's a prayer card? Like, you know, what do I do when I get up to the altar? Like, they don't know.
And especially the younger generation that comes here without their parents, they look to us like, what do I do next? And I'm so proud of them for even asking, because and that's a sign that anything happens here at the funeral home. So let's just put a little pause here to do a little funeral real work.
Anyways, after that brief little intermission.
So we're 24/7. You know, people don't have to call ahead if they need us. They come to the front door, they call us, and we're there. So that's part of this business, as you will learn. But actually, a family just came by and dropped off what we're talking about today.
Which is so wild.
So now I have all this, like, not excitement, but inspiration to share with you. So when people come to meet with us during the planning process, it's a lot of logistics and also things that we need to do legally, and just how to start the planning and like making a date, picking out the casket, talking about a life story. But sometimes it gets so much in that initial meeting, I leave them with a few questions to think about, a few prompts, kind of find ways to, you know, think about the 5 senses of the funeral experience, which is smell, aesthetic with what you see when you first come into the funeral home, music, which is huge. Also, so that's hearing, scent, also taste. Here at the Glenville Funeral Home, we pride ourselves on being Italians, and we like to feed our families and also let them know we have a little banquet space where you can bring whatever you like.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be here for a few hours, bring their favorite chocolate chip recipe. Somebody
make yourself at home.
Make it and bring it. Yes. Let's see. Taste, feel. You don't even understand that is the biggest part of a funeral experience. Hugs, having that sense of connection.
Physical touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Feeling the energy in the room.
Yeah.
So you really do get all 5 of those senses.
Even like
utilized.
comfortable chairs, like having
Comfy
somewhere
chairs.
that feels like home. That's why we have couches. We have all different types of chairs. We actually have so many chairs when you think about it.
Girl.
But there's a chair for everybody,
Yes, there is. And that's what we're here to do, is make it into an experience of loss, love, and how to come together and honor somebody, because we're all so different. How boring would it be that it's the same cookie cutter funeral every single time?
Right.
We've had against the mantles here where people would cherish the art and have a reflection. I remember they were doing that painting back then. Or prints where they tell people who come during calling hours, take one of the prints and keep it as a keepsake to remember them by.
That's what I did at Regis's.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
And I'll go to my friends' houses now and I like see that there on their desk and I'm like, how cool is it that, you can give people things that live on forever. And I think that's really the importance of the funeral experience, but also just like carrying on that person and like continuing to talk about it. So, I mean, there was that one time we had a literal motorcycle in the center of the room, like that personal touch that when you walk in, you don't even really think about the fact that you're in a funeral home.
No, like when you turn that corner. So before we press pause, we talked about how you and I are working at the front door. Preparing the people to come in. And like I said, I'm so proud of the younger generation when they ask for guidance, because that's what we're here to do, is like literally like what's the next step to do here.
Right.
And there's no right or wrong way to grieve, but this is the traditional way of going through the receiving line. Make sure you sign the book so they know that you were here, because they're going to be in a fog. And it's nice to look back and be like, oh my gosh, my friend from high school who I haven't seen in 20 years showed up for my mom who just passed away. And they remember her as the fun house who would always like let you maybe have some alcohol, have a little drink 21. Downstairs. But like those are the stories and like the ripple effect of like who we are. And that's why we have funerals, is to embrace that. And we have so much to share with the world. And I know some people don't want to, brag too much about their life, but this is the time to brag.
This is it.
You lived that dash, that favorite, very popular poem. That's what we're here to do. You were born, you died. What was in between? The 5 senses. And the family that just came in, they dropped off photos from when he was a baby, and he's in his 80s. When he was a baby, to when he was a star football player, when he was playing in the band, to his wedding photos, to his grandchildren, his students, and you're just seeing all this.
So there's the visuals, like bringing that person into the space,
the memories.
Yeah.
But then also this beautiful crystal cross that served as a sign of hope and faith for him in the end of his life. And that was very important because that was by his bedstand. And then the music, like the music he played, he was a music instructor and he played in a band and very talented. So we're not going to just listen to Beethoven. We're going to listen to his actual music.
His playlist.
Making that CD into what goes on the speakers here. It's a full-on experience. I think you were here when we had like the 30 candles that had to be lit.
At least 30.
I think there was more because she was obsessed with Yankee candles, and
she had like a massive collection. Which I noted that for my own funeral because
I love
like
it.
I am a candle collector. I love fragrance. Like I need candle everywhere you look, candle. You know what I mean?
I love the candles too, but I also was like, for my funeral, I hope it smells like pizza. And like,
yeah, no, literally, I'm like pizza, wings,
yeah, like right,
Italian meatballs, sausage and pepper.
Oh my gosh, yes, but people notice that,
yeah,
and it gets them less nervous,
yeah,
and
because it doesn't come in smelling like just. Funeral must.
Yeah, or lilies.
Yeah.
Which
we'll get into that too.
Not my favorite at all. It's more than just coming here, signing the book, and saying you were there. You're part of this experience, and you remember who came. And you also, more importantly, remember who doesn't come or didn't show up.
That is the truth, because there has been, times in my life where I've lost people, but especially with Regis, I could literally tell you everyone who was there right off the top of my head, because it was that important. Even if they just came through for 5 minutes just to like show up, like that's so meaningful. And there's some people who will stay the entire time, but just showing up, it's something about the energy that you bring into this space, the lighting, the colors, the wallpaper or lack thereof.
I think it's like a plaster. We had like an artist do it.
It's very Kim Kardashian, like her, her like stone plaster that she has everywhere.
We were definitely going for like kind of like Greek mythology, very elegant, but
simple too. Not like the, the striped floral wallpaper that's just too much.
Too much.
It's like all of that stuff really does matter. And when somebody walks in, that moment is super important to how the rest of their relationship with funerals are going to be.
It's all about energy too.
Yeah.
And if they have that confidence and that energy when they first come in and already good experience from the moment they step out of their vehicle, then they're able to help the family and not be so uncomfortable. Because I know so many people at funeral homes, they don't want to be there because they don't know what to say.
It's like so awkward.
And it's just like flowers and just a casket, and maybe they didn't have the guidance to put out the photos. Maybe they didn't have the music that set their tone.
Like some people don't even know that they have to do that stuff or that they can do that stuff.
Yeah,
like they're on autopilot. They're not thinking about that.
And that's why they have us. We're there to guide them and go and uncover the layers of the person. And I know it's daunting at the first meeting, but that's why we keep in touch. And we're like, did you have any thought about the flowers? And they're like, no, we had that conversation afterwards, and we're going to move forward with the red, white, and blue theme because he was a patriot. It just sounded much better than the other tone that we were kind of going back and forth with. So it's decision making and also giving them the space to ponder, and then also give them the exploration of what about this? Options, not overwhelming them, but just knowing we're here to do whatever they like.
And giving them the option or the opportunity to bring that person that passed into the room in a way that makes sense for
their
them.
Spirit. We are trying to channel the spirit. It's just great to see that people can have positive experiences. Yeah. And the best compliment that you've been hearing too, being around the funeral home here, is that was a beautiful funeral. That was a great experience. I thought I was going to be dreading this. I'm so happy we had this.
Like,
and
I
it
never
was
expected
perfect.
it to be like this.
Yes.
I've never been to a funeral like this.
They're like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but
I know. I almost feel like a sort of guilt for saying it because it was
Yes.
enjoyable for what it is. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, yes, funerals suck in a way.
Oh, they
but
do.
at the same time, we can take so many situations in life and like make the best of them. So why not make the best of this? You know what I mean?
I remember the Disney themed funeral I did where we had Mickey Mouse ears for everybody to wear during the service.
That's going to be my dad's funeral.
Oh my God.
Full Disney theme.
I love it. And that's a whole other conversation on how you can take that to all different levels.
Right?
From engraving your monument marker with Disney scripture.
Oh my God, my dad literally
you know that
would. Like the font that they use.
The font, thank you. To playing the music. You can really bring in who you are. Speaking of that, I know we're quote unquote young, but anything could happen. What would you bring into your funeral?
What would I do for my funeral? I've got it all planned out. I have a playlist of all my favorite songs, some uplifting, some very somber.
Give me one example of uplifting, one of somber.
So an uplifting song I have on here is Neon Pill by Cage the Elephant. And then a sad song I have on here, Think Before You Drink by The Voids. It's very all over the place, but there's songs that no matter who is there, someone's going to hear it and say that was our song. Because like I have my best friend and I's song. I have, song that Regis and I loved. Like it's very intentional in that way. So I think music for me is going to be very big. In 5 minutes,
This could be a whole episode.
We should do an episode on this.
I think we should, because I'm already thinking what I would say. Because anything from the takeaways that people could take, because let's be real, there's some people who collect items that nobody else would, and like what's going to go to them? Like maybe they're worth something, maybe you sell them, maybe you'll feel bad never sell them, and then they go to the next generation collecting dust and they have no meaning. But like also like what you would wear. There's so much that goes into it. You can make your wishes known. I'm gonna put in a plug here. So at Glenville Funeral Home, we really want people to think about these things at all stages in your life, because we never know when, the end date of our monument marker will have to be plugged in. So these things are your essence, and your family's gonna have to answer so many questions if things weren't prepared. So why not, take the time to think about yourself at any age and who you are. I know fashion and personality trends change as you grow up. Just something to look inside yourself and think, what would I want? But then also, if you do have parents or family that they are getting older, you really should make the time to have these conversations. Yeah. It's a powerful way to make them in control of their final wishes. It's empowering. And also peace of mind, knowing, one day I just pressed record on my iPhone and had a conversation like this, and now I have it when I need it.
To reflect back
on. And
on.
Also their final words. Having the last say is so powerful.
Yes, I think your family just pulled in. So
okay,
we'll wrap it up. So for this portion, we're gonna go on our field trip. We're gonna introduce you to Felthousen, and I hope you guys enjoy our little field trip.
It's gonna be fun.
Yes. Today we're on a very special field trip, and this is my first time here. So thank you so much for having us today. We're here at Felthousen's, and I just want you to introduce yourself and tell the people all the wonderful things that you're doing here.
I'm Mark Felthousen. I'm the owner of this company, Felthousen Florist. I'm the fourth generation owner, and my son is also part owner. He'll be the fifth generation. Since 1913 was when it was established. This is the main location here in Niskayuna, and then we have two other satellites, Calhoun and Albany.
Amazing. So my question right off the bat is, has it always been this like elaborate and beautiful in here? Did it start like really, really small?
No, it was really basic back in the day. In fact, it was more greenhouse oriented.
Okay.
You grew your own, as much of your own stuff as possible.
We have steam fitted metal pipes. We have literally like batons and things of people's interest in these beautiful floral arrangements that just, the moment you see a piece, it's like, oh my gosh, this is their essence. Like, this is mom. This is Betty, who I remember this was her favorite football team. And it just gives that sense of peace. And it's all about the aesthetic of a funeral. And Felthousen's and local florists, they really help us capture that in the way of floral arrangements.
Yeah, what she's talking about is a lot of thematic funeral work, which is the more interesting kind of things to make. If a person comes in and says, I want something that celebrates my husband as part of his career, a plumber or a firefighter, or his hobbies.
Yeah, like adding those elements into it.
Fishing and hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff, golfing. And then when people see it, they get a real personal reaction to it.
Right.
As opposed to just a generic kind of flower basket.
Right, like something you can just go to a random store and buy.
Yeah, I make tons of those. But if something has a particular personal element to it, people will react.
Right, like have it be a centerpiece for people to like actually bring people together and start conversation.
That's right.
Obviously, like we are coming at it from a funeral perspective, but you guys do so much more than just that.
Well, we do a lot of funeral work. That's maybe 25% of the business. But we also do a lot of weddings and parties, so we're known for that. People come here for this kind of stuff here, centerpieces. We're an all-purpose flower shop. If you want to get a little cash and carry bouquet, if you want to get a $500 centerpiece, we can do all that too. And then holidays, big on holidays. We deliver anything you want, anywhere in the Capital District. So we're a full-service flower shop.
I know you were able to get gardenias for my grandmother's funeral, and that was just so special. That was my grandma's flower, and the moment we even entered the building, you're hit with that scent, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Those gardenias, they do need some pre-planning to get. I mean, so with a little bit of notice, we can get a lot of different things.
Yeah. And what do you still grow here at Felthousen?
Just some outdoor stuff during the summertime. Sunflowers, snapdragons.
Yeah.
And then I grow a berry crop, like what we call ilex berry for the wintertime, which we use in our Christmas arrangements.
Well, the greenhouse is beautiful. That's the first thing that you notice when you walk in. And oh my gosh, the people who say, well, obviously it's a fact of science, you know, better oxygen. And it just like feels so good to be in this environment. And and what flowers and plants make, you know, people feel. It's definitely all senses, you know, the delicate nature of a flower, but then also the aroma, the aesthetic of it. Let's go back into history on why flowers at a funeral home, because it was to hide the smell of the dead body. But do you know the history on like the funeral flowers and how it just got so involved in the funeral process?
Oh, I guess it's tradition. You know, you build on generational tradition. So certain generations, certain ethnicities focus on it more than others. That's on my website, right on the front page. It's sort of a mission statement. We're not really sending flowers. We're sending a message. And then the flowers is a vehicle for getting the message across. And that's why we're here.
That's so true. I love that. Yeah. Flowers have so much purpose. So it's not just for the scent, as blunt as I was back in the day before, you know, modern embalming practices. It was because funerals were held at the homes and the nasty smell of lilies would cover the smell of
a 2-day funeral.
Yes. Well, also about why some people don't send flowers, and I know this is like the funereal term that you don't want to use, is in lieu of flowers versus memorial contributions. So when we have our discussions with the families, we want to prepare them. That says people will send flowers, but if they were big advocates for St. Jude, maybe the American Cancer Society, they were really involved and they definitely want money to go towards those causes, then I say we can use the term in lieu of flowers, but I just want to prepare you when it's only the family pieces, that is why, because we're directing them to do that. I know at least 80% of my families, they want to see those flowers there. They want to see those display.
I think the room is going to look a little
sparse
if you're bleak, if it's just 3 things in there. So
yeah,
I think it helps just brighten up a room. Obviously I'm biased,
yes, absolutely.
But a big bright room of flowers is better than just a bunch of walls.
Which also brings it to now there's so many different online companies that are trying to compete with family-owned, small, independent florist shops. As a professional, as a person with a good eye and just a brain, you see these flowers that come from Telefloral or 1-800-Flowers, and you are so embarrassed to put them out. They look like, first off, it's Grubhub or what's the other? DoorDash delivery drivers that like have them like piled in their vehicle and they're like running into a wall, handing you the flower. I'm like, this family is going to be so unhappy with it. And 90% of the time, the family is like, I'm so embarrassed with this piece. And then I have to like kind of find a way that it's not so vocal, so of a focal point, because it is going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the arrangement they sent. And I'm just speaking honestly because it happens so often.
We have our own delivery drivers, so we control the whole process.
And the importance that independent florists and businesses, they just take the extra step to make sure everything is as you ordered.
Right to the door. Sure. You are much better off calling your favorite local flower shop.
So I have a question for you. What is your favorite flower and why?
Well, it's a tulip because I'm Dutch. And if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
Okay. Love it. Just as we came here today, it looked like one of your regular customers came back here, and it just shows a sense of community that every stage of life, you're here for the happiest times of our lives. Like last time I sat at this table with you in person was planning my wedding, and you got to see a different perspective of me. But then also, get well, sympathy cards, sympathy flowers when somebody passes and being there for their darkest moments. It's every season, like from Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah. Oftentimes
everything.
you see it on a wedding. You'll see the bride whose mother's wedding we also did, and then the bride will start to have children. So we're doing parties for that.
Baby
and then we're doing baby
showers.
showers, and then another few years go by. You might be doing a funeral for some grandparent. We do it cross generations.
And a part of every stage of life, which I think is so beautiful to think more of. Well, that's amazing. And it's so important to know that these businesses are in our community and they're here when you need them. But if you just need something to brighten up your friend's day, or maybe as I just had, I'm sorry card sent to a friend, it's just nice to know that for every season, maybe a flower will make things better.
So just for everyone listening, if you would like to share where people can find you and how they can order, is it just local? Can people, across?
Oh, yeah. We can, you can find me on the telephone, and we have 3 locations, so you can show up in person here in Niskayuna or Stuyvesant Plaza in Albany, or on Remsen Street in Cohoes. You can go online and, do the Felthousensflorist.com. We deliver our own things locally, which is a pretty wide area. And if you need something delivered to San Francisco, we can coordinate that.
Sounds great. So for those of you listening or watching, you can check out the show notes to find all the information for Felthousen. Give them a call if you're local, or come and check out this amazing
just
shop.
Show up in person.
Yeah, it is so wonderful here. So if you even just want to swing by and check it out, I think you should. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, you guys, I know a lot happened in this episode. We went on a field trip. We sat down in the funeral home. We had an unexpected call. There was just a lot going on. It was a whole journey. It felt like literally filming a TV show. But I really hope you enjoyed seeing some behind the scenes stuff at the funeral home. The flowers, that floral shop is literally amazing. It was my first time there in person. I had seen pictures of it, and obviously working at the funeral home, we get their flowers literally on a daily basis. So I was familiar with most of what they do. Actually, fun fact, I had a launch party for season 2 of this podcast, and Felthousen donated this really wonderful black floral piece that's right behind me. And now it's just in the backdrop of most of my episodes. So with that being said, before we get into my mental health update, if you want to order from Felthousen and you want to send flowers to somebody, let's say, it's someone's birthday, you know what I mean? We got to send flowers. Or one of my best friends just had her second baby, and I'm going to be sending her flowers from Felthousen to be delivered to her house as a congratulations. The holidays are coming up. If you want to send someone a really beautiful Thanksgiving piece, you can use code REMINDER up on the screen if you're watching YouTube, and of course in the show notes and description box. Use code REMINDER at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase with Felthousen. Of course, if you're local to the capital region, you can have that delivered, and of course you can go pick up in store. Y'all heard the gist, but ultimately code REMINDER, 10% off. And definitely, if you go in person, let them know that we sent you from the And Also podcast. And thank you again to Felthousen for sponsoring today's episode. We appreciate you so much in everything you do. It's really great working with smaller businesses and getting to know people in your own community. So once again, thank you to Felthousen for sponsoring today's episode. And now to get into my mental health update with SHEA. If you didn't know, I am doing an inner alignment program with SHEA. We did an episode together, which of course you can check out on my Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. It's an 8-week program, and at the end of every week, I am doing an update for you guys so you can learn more about my mental health journey and see where I'm at. So this is week 2, and this week we went over some of my other key players. We discussed how my practices during the last week went, and we actually talked a little bit more about Regis this week, which is always intense. It's always intense because I tend to talk about it in a very dissociative way, as if it didn't really happen to me or in my life. It's just really hard for me to see this as something that really did happen to me. So that's something I'm really working through. We didn't get into too much specifics about his passing and everything leading up to that, but we did talk a lot about the depths of that, and then also addressed a lot of childhood trauma and just kind of put everything out on the table. As for some of the practices for this week, our goal was to definitely start setting more intention for the week, for the day, and getting more on a schedule for myself, and really just working to prioritize that, as well as like eating more. I struggle a lot with eating in general, and it's just been a thing like my whole life. So I really want to get better at taking care of my body, because that contributes to a healthy mind. And then we really wanted to start to carve out how I actually want to feel in my life, like really creating a vision, setting the intention for what I want my life to look like, what things need to give, what things can stay, what things need to be improved on. I did a lot of outlining on how I want to feel in my job, how I want to feel in my relationships with people, and how I want to feel in myself. And I think that's a really hard part for me. It's like I can envision what I want my ideal work situation to be, or how I want my relationship to look, things I want to work on, but it's hard to imagine like bigger picture, like what is my intention with myself. So that's something that we're really focusing on. I was also working a lot this week on actually penciling in time in my schedule to doing meditation, to make sure I have a really solid morning routine, to make sure I'm at least eating 2 really healthy balanced meals during the day. And then also setting a time where I clock out each day, because like I said last time, I do work from home, so I could work into the late hours of the night if I want to, and oftentimes I do. So this week I'm trying to just stop working 1 or 2 hours earlier than I usually do. I don't necessarily think it's realistic for me to go from being clocked in until 1 a.m. to all of a sudden clocking out at 5. Like, it doesn't make sense for me right now. So I'm just slowly trying to like clock out earlier and earlier and earlier until I'm at a place where I'm like, yeah, I'm actually done working by 5 or 6 o'clock. So just keeping myself on track with that and organized is so important. I think this week was also really interesting because the week leading up to my second session was the launch party of my podcast, and it was a pretty big event. It was a lot of stress. It was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of stuff to do, and I just felt really overwhelmed. And it was definitely a week where I had to actually like let go of my expectation and just enjoy the experience. And then also with that, letting my friends like step in and be my support system. I really needed that. And my friends are really good at doing that. So I had to just like let go of a lot of things this week and just take a deep breath and like let it happen. So then I know next week we'll be doing a lot more deep trauma work. So I think these first 2 weeks we're setting just a really good framework for how I'm going to emotionally support myself going forward, especially working through some of the really deep stuff. But getting some of the Regis stuff off my chest and learning more about the way that I process things was a really good place to start. So I'm interested to see how next week goes. And yeah, that's really it for this week's update. So far, I'm really enjoying working with SHEA and just doing the program. I feel like I'm making a lot of progress in such little amounts of time. SHEA just has like such a great way of talking to me and like understanding me and like making me feel really understood. So yeah, that's my update. Of course, I'll talk to you guys next week at the end of the episode, and you will definitely learn more about some of the really deep trauma work that we're doing. If you guys are watching this episode on the YouTube channel at And Also Podcast, be sure to subscribe. Give this video a like if you liked it and leave a comment below letting us know what you want to see next. And if you're listening on audio platforms, be sure to rate the show 5 stars. It really helps us to be able to share these stories, these really, really important stories, and give people platforms to speak on this deep stuff. So definitely rate the show, save it to a playlist, or send it to a friend. Be sure to follow And Also Pod on Instagram. I'm trying to hit 1,000 followers, and we are so close. So head on over there, give us a follow, and send me a message if you have any thoughts on the show or you want to be a guest. Definitely send me a DM over there. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.